All right, this is going to be slightly different than my usual video editing tutorials, but this is actually going to be a tutorial on how to use this program called Obsidian to gather inspiration, resources, ideas for writing sermon illustrations. This is specifically targeted towards preachers, but could probably be adapted to other speakers or writers gathering ideas to incorporate into content. And Obsidian is a very vast program. It has a lot of capabilities, but this is just a very specific use case, very narrow use for simply collecting ideas quickly and referencing them easily. So to get started, you'll need to download Obsidian, which is available on pretty much every platform. I'm on Windows, but you can also get it for iOS, Android. You can get it for mobile, although Sync is not one of the free features. Sync is basically the main paid feature. So this will be primarily a desktop application. So once you have Obsidian installed, you can download the sermon illustration database packet from my Gumroad. The link will be in the description of this video. It's free, just put in 0 for the price. I won't be offended, I promise. And then you'll be brought to the download page. And there are two versions of this. They're pretty much the same. The only difference is that one of them, this main one, sermon illustration database, has a complete list of the KJV Bible embedded into it with every single verse as a separate note, and that's important and useful, which I will explain later, but it does create a lot of files. It's not a very big file, it's still only 12 megabytes, but it's a lot of files when you're unzipping it. So if you have trouble with that, there's also this light version which does not have the Bible references in it. Now this folder is going to be the primary location for all the notes that are going to be stored in it. So put this folder somewhere where you want all that data, whether it's a documents folder or whatever. I have, for these intents and purposes, I just put it on my desktop. This is not typically where I store my Obsidian files. So once that finishes downloading, we'll see it here as a zip file. And then all you got to do is extract all. And we'll go ahead and extract it right here. It is going to take a minute because, like I said, there are a lot of files with the entire Bible packed into this. This process took about 15 minutes on my computer, so bear that in mind. Go make yourself a cup of coffee and come back in a few minutes. Okay, so once that's extracted, you don't need this zip file anymore. And if we go in there real quick before we go to Obsidian, you'll see that it's just a bunch of these files with .md. MD is Markdown. It's basically just a text file that adds formatting based on very simple, essentially code rules. So if you just turn this file into a TXT file, you can open it in Notepad and you can see that it's just a bunch of text, but you have all your content. So that is one of the unique features about Obsidian, is that it does not create proprietary files. All your files are yours on your computer that you can, access, reference as text files, even if you stop using Obsidian at some point. But using Obsidian just makes organizing and viewing these files much easier. So in order to do that, we're going to open Obsidian. And so what you're going to see is a window that looks like this. These are two vaults that I already have. And these vaults are just folders with those Markdown files in them. So all you have to do to create a vault is point Obsidian to one of those. So we're going to say open folder as vault because this database template is already a vault. And then we're going to navigate to that same location on the desktop where we put this database. And we're going to click on this root folder and click select folder. And then Obsidian is going to open for us. And it's going to start indexing all of those files. And again, there's a lot of files, so that's going to take a while. It's going to run in the background for a little bit. So just let it do its thing. There is this guide file right when you open it that will kind of walk you through some of the stuff that I'm about to go through. Let's go through some of the basics of the UI. here in the middle, you have your main file. Over here, you have your list of all the files that you're looking at. So what we're going to be doing with this illustration database is not doing a lot of organization. We're basically just going to fill up this sidebar with all of our examples, and then we're going to use some of the other tools, some of the search features, in order to access those files when we are looking for something specifically. And I have loaded in a couple of these sample illustrations. These are just off the top of my head. Full disclosure, I'm not a preacher, so I just put a couple of examples of things that I was thinking about while I was building this. You can delete those, you can leave them, whatever you want to do. On this side over here, we have a outline. So these headers are all going to appear as places on the outline that we can quickly click through our file. And then down here we have a search bar, and we also have this tags feature. Now, this entire use case is adapted from David Daniels' sermon illustration database, which I think was pretty Windows-centric, so I was hoping that this would expand it to more people. But other than that, I've pretty much copied his structure and brought it over into Obsidian. So when you want to create a note, you just click this new note button up here, give it a title, and then over here, you'll see Insert Template. And right now there's only one template. There's this illustration template. And so we're going to click on that, and it's going to populate this series of fields that you can use in order to create your illustration. So Obsidian is all about linking ideas together, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But what's going to be really helpful is having notes that connect to each other that can be a springboard to build connected ideas. And then down here in the body of the note, you have a place to write the meat of your illustration. And then down here, you could do things like every time that you use this illustration, you could make a reference of it. So you could say something like, I'm going to create a subheading here. And so that way you can kind of just have an archive of usage and thoughts about how it went. When formatting text in Obsidian, there is, like I said, a kind of code system, but Obsidian also makes it pretty easy to highlight and right-click text, and then you can format it with various headings or lists, tasks, and all that stuff. So it's pretty user-friendly. Now up here, I might just fill this in with today's date, and then the source can probably be left blank, and the scripture is where the list of Bible verses that are installed in here is going to come in handy. So I can quickly reference a verse like Romans 13:1, and then that is listed there. But since we have all the verses listed in here, one thing that's neat about Obsidian is if I write it with 2 square brackets and then you can see it will start to autofill notes that I already have in my Obsidian library. So here I can just click on Romans 13:1, and then if I hover over this while holding Control, I can see that actual verse. And again, this is only the King James Version. Now later, if you're not inputting information, but you're just referencing, you can switch to read mode. And then all you have to do is hover over linked notes, and that information will appear automatically. Now, tags I would use for things that are very broad, because anything that could contain its own information as a note would be put in references. So if we wanted to say George Washington, even though I don't have a note for George Washington, I'm still going to put it in this double square brackets. And then that is basically a non-existent note, but a note that could be created by just clicking on it. So if I click on it, now George Washington has his own note, and he is referenced in this American Revolution note. Tags would be things more like concepts or ideas. So something like freedom could maybe go there. And this is going to play into the referencing aspect. So if we come over to the tags, and then let's say that we pulled this up one day working on a message that relates to freedom, we can click on freedom, and then it will pull up notes with that tag. So we already have one with Braveheart that relates to freedom and the American Revolution. So those two are both in there already. And you can also use this search bar to search everything in your library. So this is going to search all of our Bible notes and things as well. And it has some guides for some more specific ways that you could search as well. So let's look at one more example that I already have loaded in here for the Apple Vision Pro. So I've also created an extra heading in this note called resources. So we have a link to Apple's announcement video. And like I said, Obsidian has a lot of really cool features that you can dig into. Like, for example, you can embed videos straight into notes. So that's kind of neat. So the last thing that's really cool about Obsidian that can help identify ideas and connected ideas is this graph view. So when you open this, it's going to take a minute, and you need to have this -path Bible here, or else it's going to load every single one of the Bible verses into this graph view, and it's going to take up a lot of your computer's resources. But if you have that on, you give it a minute and it will calm down. But then you can see how these notes connect with each other. So you can even see notes that don't exist yet. So like this says Apple Vision Pro, which connects to Apple, the company, Silicon Valley. So those could both become notes later on. Here's our American Revolution and our George Washington. And you can also show your tags. So you can see where things like bravery connects to both Braveheart and Don Quixote, or freedom connects to the American Revolution and Braveheart. So it's just a different kind of way of visualizing your ideas and your notes. It's also worth noting that while you're looking at this list of illustrations on the left here, you can hold down Control and you can get a quick preview of what is in that note without even opening it. Well, there you go. Those are the basics. You can take this as far as you want, but hopefully it helps you organize your thoughts and your ideas, and hopefully it's helpful. Thanks for watching.